All right. Walk and talk, give myself some therapy. I wrote down a couple things that were on my mind, or words to remember topics that I was thinking about talking about, but kind of like usual, there's going to be no, I don't know, there's no clear direction that I want to go with this. The purpose of this video is just me working through my own thoughts, trying to relieve myself of whatever, anxiety, negative thoughts, all that shit. And is this effective? I don't know. We hear all kind of things about what's effective for people in different statistical ways, like antidepressants, therapy, do this, do that, whatever. But I think it's a lot harder, at least, well, some of the time, it's harder to measure your own it's hard to get an objective look at how you're doing. And sometimes it's hard for other people to get that either. Even the outsider perspective, someone told me, that I sound good. I talked to them on the phone. Oh, I sound good. And it's like, well, maybe compared to, I don't know him, but I'm not feeling that great, So where am I going with this? I don't know. That it's hard to get an objective view from other people sometimes, and yourself, of like what's helpful, how are you doing, and all that shit. I don't know. Too many distractions. Cars, people. Okay. Anyway, what are some of the things I wanted to talk about? One thing, people, it's a topic I've talked about a bunch, is the advice giving thing. And I don't know. One piece of evidence for why advice doesn't really pan out is God, sometimes I hate making these videos because it's all, I know it's all redundant, that you can find me saying similar sentiments somewhere. And I've even talked about that a million times. How do we avoid the redundancy of our thoughts, ideas, experiences? Is it all just sort of some version of a loop? It probably is. Unless you're doing a deep dive into a variety of topics and research and whatnot. I mean, we probably all sort of have some degree of redundant, a large degree of redundant thoughts, experiences, and all that. But anyway, enough me apologizing for my existence. Enough me apologizing to the mostly non-existent viewer here. I was going to say, a lot of times people give advice on certain things, and it's like, if that's what that is, if that's what it takes, then I'm not even interested in the thing to begin with. And I'm referring to, like, when people talk about, men and women, and how as a man you need to be this way, and male nature is this, and female nature is this, and this is how you've got to approach this, and none of it, if the answer of how you ought to behave, right, doesn't more or less boil down to being generally your authentic self, while also working hard at being caring and empathetic and compassionate. If it's not some version of authenticity and kindness, I just don't give a shit, And people will get almost like triggered by this. Well, that's just that's just not how the world works and this, not, but I don't care. And sometimes it's hard because I really want to be able to have conversations with people who can understand that I just don't care then, right? I am interested in, how can people have, better conversation? How can people be, how can you be authentic and kind at the same time and all this stuff? I'm not interested in sort of gamifying relationships, whether it's friendships, romantic, whatever. I'm interested in being genuine and, if anything, kind of working towards figuring out what are the ways where I'm not being genuine, not looking for new ways to be sort of what I would consider fake, phony, which is, trying to talk or behave in a way that influences someone else, that has nothing to do with anything resembling staying true to yourself or being honest or caring or, just, yes, having some general self-respect and all that stuff, but also just being real, So that's just one thing that's been on my mind, right? It's like, if people think that maintaining, I'm currently in a relationship, but if people think that finding a relationship or being in a relationship requires sort of all these different ideas or books or thought, schools of thought that exist about that. If it requires all this, then I'm just not that interested, right? I guess I'm not that interested in adopting other people's sort of philosophies, right? It's like, I don't know, maybe this comes off as arrogant and that's fine if it does. I kind of don't know how much I care, but it's like, I'm 39 years old. I've done a lot of thinking, some might say overthinking. I think I've had a fair amount of life experiences at this point. A variety of situations where I've experienced a lot of joy and a lot of suffering, accomplishments, failures, death, whatever. I guess the things that we all experience, but I just don't feel like I'm interested in ways of perceiving things, but I am a bit rigid in the sense that I feel like I have explored different ideas. I don't feel like I haven't thought about different possibilities. And I think what it comes down to is just the simple thing that there aren't answers to every dilemma, right? And I think what's hard right now is that what people really need, what I really need, and a lot of people need, is they need, love and empathy. As cheesy as that might sound to some people, and not answers. Sure, the answers would be great if they were actually the answers, but they're not the answers. What they are is there's some combination of ideas that have been funneled through various societal, pathways of, media, word of mouth, whatever. People's personal failures and successes, their traumas, their all that shit, and it combines into, here's how things are. But at the end of the day, most people, pretty much every person that would have an idea about anything, obviously including myself here, sometimes or oftentimes has failed in a variety of contexts, and then you can say, well, why didn't you just implement that advice there? How did you fail here? Or was it always, is every failure because you just didn't adhere to your own advice? Or is every failure someone else's fault? Or is it more likely that it's just, there isn't a real playbook for life? And as disturbing to some, and disturbing and disappointing as that might be, I think that's just the reality, right? And it's back to the usual. I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but why is religion appealing? All that stuff, right? We won't get into why that's a unfulfilling playbook in itself, but it's still a playbook, and people want the playbook, right? Now, I do think there is some value in going back to some cliche bullshit, which will make this thought process, this video, even more, unoriginal as my fear is. My fear of not saying something that's mind-blowingly brand new perspective, which you're not going to get, I guess. What you're going to get is if you just enjoy hanging out. If you just enjoy hanging out, and maybe you're feeling lonely. Maybe you used to know me and you miss me. Whatever. That's all you're going to get. You're getting my company. You're not, It would be cool if in some weird way this is helpful to you, whoever you are. But mostly what you're going to get is you're just going to enjoy some trees, just hearing me talk. Maybe you'll relate to my own struggles, and that'll be what's helpful to you. It's just being able to relate to another human lost in overthinking, a bit gloomy and doomy, right? So where were we though? That was a long tangent. Oh, I was going to get to these cliches, and the cliche is, it really does come down to what can you control, right? So we know that the whole thing, you can't control other people. You can't control random events of you can't control the weather. You can't control the hurricanes. The list of what you can't control is a pretty long fucking list. It's a pretty long list. And so what can you control, without going down the philosophical rabbit hole, just of what seems to be sort of common sense? What is the common sense answer of what you can control? I don't really think you can control what you think. I think you can only control what you do. To some degree, we'll say you can control what you do and what you say. And I think through what you do and what you say, yes, there will be sort of effects from that might affect how you think. So certainly if what you're doing all the time is consuming sort of angry political, media, that's going to affect your thought process. If you're watching right-wing stuff, left-wing stuff, if you're watching a bunch of Buddhist stuff, if you're watching a bunch of Christian stuff. So definitely, maybe it's me saying you can control to some degree what you think, but it's more of an indirect control in that it's still about what you do. What you do will have some ramifications to how you're thinking. Even just me going on this walk, I don't think it's going to suddenly make me feel like in an excellent mood, but let's be a little positive. I think it could help a little bit. Maybe, I'll feel a little bit healthier. Maybe all the effects of exercise will impact my thinking, whatever. And then the other cliche stuff is just the ego thing, right? I do think at some point maybe there is a decision that can be made, or maybe it's a decision you have to make every single day in all sorts of different situations, because it's easy for us to sort of come to sort of an idea of how we want to live and whatever, and then we forget and we just go back to some sort of bullshit routine and exist in a sort of not intentional or thoughtful way. But lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? Oh, the ego thing. Yeah. So you have to decide, like, is your life going to be rooted in the ego thing? Meaning, you know, is what I want by making this video, you know, yeah, sure, we all like to feel validated, but is the main intention, am I looking for, is it all a pursuit of, you know, wanting something to do with my ego, which I don't think is totally bad either, by the way. I'm not sort of a believer of, like, have no ego and kill your inner self, there is no you. I don't like that. I'm not into that shit, you know? I mean, I'm sure plenty of people have a million reasons why that stuff is true and helpful and whatever. I'm not into that. But I do think there is, I don't know if you want to call it moderation or whatever. It's, are you existing because you have some sort of, maybe you're still trying to get mommy and daddy's approval. Maybe there's still, you know, even if it's just this is sort of a metaphorical thing, like you want your high school class to think you're cool, right? You know, you're waiting for that reunion so you can show them how you've done so well and look at your fancy clothes and let me tell you about my fancy job, or whatever it is. Some version of showing off, hoping people will, you know, think you're doing so well or trying to do better than somebody else, whatever. Or is it about something else? And what could that something else be? It could be something that resembles peace of mind. It could be meaningful relationships. It could be some hobby or job or whatever it is that you're passionate about. But that the reason for that passion, you know, even if it is ego-based, I actually think there's different kinds of ego boosts that are more meaningful than others, in the sense of, you know, I think it's okay to have a passion for something, and part of the reason you have that passion is you're doing some sort of good in the world, and people, you know, compliment you, and part of that enjoyment is you like to get that compliment, right? So it is sort of an ego thing, but it has something to do with making a positive difference in someone's life, making someone feel better and happier, as opposed to just more of a domination thing. Like, here are the different ways that I'm better than you, or I could control you, or why I matter more, or why you should be envious, all that stuff. And I think, I would say almost everyone, and this is the danger of this kind of stuff, or yeah, is everyone always thinks that they're not the ones that are part of, you know, whatever the common sense sort of unhealthy or whatever mindset is. Most people, yeah, I'm not ego based. But it's just the thing we all are, right? It's just the thing we all have, that thing where, I mean, especially in these times, you know, where it's like, if I didn't brag about it, if I didn't brag about it on the internet, did it really happen? Did it really matter? You know, it's like hardly anyone would even consider that they can go on a vacation without photographic evidence to post to show people how much fun they had. So I don't know where I'm going with any of this, but here, let me show you photographic evidence of the beautiful view. This video is already 20 minutes long. Well, at least they got some exercise out of it, right? I don't know, or it's something about the live streaming that I was doing like 5 or 6 years ago, and I don't know, just the whole bullshit about you don't realize the good times until the good times are gone. Whatever. But those weren't really good times. I mean, I think I was probably miserable actually. So I don't know. What's a good time? What are the good times? I was just thinking how there was something cool about the little group of friends that would hang out in those live streams 5-6 years ago. Has it been that long? I guess so. Maybe 4 or 5, I don't know. Maybe we'll go this way. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not particularly impressed with the video. I don't know. Why is that? I guess part of it, there's just so much pressure to, it's kind of unfortunate that it's like there's this sort of demotivation, I think probably not just for me, but for a lot of people, to do anything resembling personal expression, creativity, all that. I think it's hard to be as motivated when there's just so much out there, right? It's hard for me to be like, should you watch this video instead of something else? I mean, you're probably going to be more entertained. Watching a podcast with a big budget where they've done a lot of research. They got a bunch of things to throw at you. They've got some dramatic debate happening that can get your blood flowing, make you feel alive. Watching other people's passion and anger might make you feel something. I don't know. Maybe I can make you feel. How do I make you feel something? Gotta make you feel. I need some more. More poetry. Maybe I could make you feel something. I don't know. What am I talking about? Don't be real, man. Don't say what you're thinking. Don't be vulnerable. Don't be this. Don't be that. People will do this. But bro, don't you get it? Life, to me, is genuinely not worth living if I'm not being myself. Whatever that fucking means to me. Being myself, trying to share ideas, thoughts, experiences that are real. I don't want to contort myself. I don't want to. There's no prize. The prize for me, if there is one, is mostly, there's other prizes, but is in relating, genuinely connecting, sharing some ideas that are rooted in just honest thoughts, which includes being honest about your life experience, because you can't even get to honest conclusions if everyone is playing some sort of game where they can't be themselves, because it's always all about power. It's all about power and self-image and all that stuff, then you actually can't dig deeper into more, I don't know, real conclusions about life, because everything is a facade. The more fake we are, the more we have to hide about who we really are, what we really want, what hurts us, what makes us feel good, all those things. So, I don't know. Some people are like, oh, as a society, we're getting too soft, men are getting too soft, all that shit. It's like, no, I don't know if it's about that. It's our people being real, you know? Are people being genuine. And it is true that some people might take advantage or look down on you or criticize you, all these different things, and that's fine. Like, but really though, is that strength or is that weakness? You know, if we're getting into the whole thing about sort of the anti-weakness angle, which is what I've been talking to people about, you know, this weakness thing, especially as a man, you know, what's perceived as weak, and is that okay, and should you avoid being seen as weak? But is real weakness, if we're being honest about it, not just how other people perceive it, but just what's truly weak, truly strong? Would it be being willing to take a risk at living a life of being honest, genuine, not needing to twist and turn to get other people to want you, to approve of you, and all that other stuff? Is the authenticity actually real strength? I don't know. But once again, maybe that doesn't matter to people, right? Because if all that matters is how other people perceive you, that's a whole different thing, right? It's not about being a good person. It's about being perceived as a good person. It's not about being strong. It's being perceived as strong. And it's back to the whole ego thing. Is it a life? What's your life for? Is it about sort of insulating that ego as much as possible, which probably has to do with, you know, a lot of the times I'm talking about ego based on how other people view you, and that's where your ego is rooted in, which, like I've said, hard to avoid that entirely. You know, we all need a support system, but I guess maybe what I'm really getting at is that, you know, as rare and difficult as it might be to find, what really matters are actually, can you have really deep, good friendships? Can you have a romantic relationship where you can be at least as genuine as possible and still be loved, appreciated, respected, and so on, you know? And I think even if those things are rare and difficult and complicated, I think those things are worth aspiring to. And if not, then just, I guess the other path would be, or maybe a combination of these two paths, but the other path would be just pure hedonism. And I like to have fun. I like hedonistic pursuits. I'm not gonna deny that. I'm not really, you know, while I might enjoy certain aspects of Buddhism or whatever you want to call it, Eastern philosophy, there are parts of me that like to, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I consider just going pure 100% hedonism route for my life. But I think probably the right thing would be some sort of balance, which maybe is a sort of Buddhist idea, is the moderation, the balancing it out. But so yeah, what I'm trying to get at here, the conclusion that I've arrived at is that, for me at least, right, this might not apply to you, because all of us have our intricate little millions of experiences that make us who we are and make us tick the way we do, and back to the whole advices might be worthless thing for much of the time anyway. But at least for me, it boils down to, I want authentic, meaningful, deep relationships, or none at all, in a sense. The ones that don't really mean a whole lot to me. And I want fun and pleasure. but I don't want the fun and pleasure bad enough to have to spend my life figuring out how to be a fake version of myself to get it. And I don't want relationships that appear to be meaningful, but really to me aren't, because I'm really having to be someone that just isn't me. I'm having to, even though some people might argue we're always putting on a performance of some sort, I don't know if I completely buy that. I think some of us are more able to tap into our true selves. I don't know. Right now in this video, maybe there's some things here and there that I've censored, or this is presenting one version of myself, but it's certainly not, most of it is not contrived. It's not like there's no plan that I'm trying to get anything in particular out of it, other than being as open, as honest as at least I'm willing to be right here in a video, and maybe hoping that somehow brings me some clarity on things, or is just a relief getting some things off my chest, or that you'll relate to it or something. So anyway, did I just say anything in the 31 minutes? I'm not sure, but I'm gonna try to not let my ego I'm gonna try not to care too much, if you love me or hate me. But it is true, I'd probably prefer the love.